Hey guys, welcome back to Dueling Destination. Today I'll bring to you guys my Volume 2 version of the Orcust Phantom Knight deck I've been using these past 2 weeks. As you saw on the last upload, I had Volume 1, now this is Volume 2. I'm trying to keep it as budget as I can because I am a budget player. So I know that dangers can't get in here and be budget. So we don't have any dangers in this deck. This past weekend, Thomas Rose did win with the Orcust Danger deck, and I think it's a strong deck, but it's kind of out of my league. I'm a budget player and there's no problem with that. I still compete against some of the best players around here and I have fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So let's start off with the deck profile. I'm using one copy of Bombard. This guy is pretty good in the later games, and sometimes by sending him to the graveyard, your opponent thinks it's just a dead card, but it still comes up to special summon monsters from your hand. Sometimes you do need that extra summon, and this helps a lot in that case. And also, I'm using double copies of Harp Horror. This is pretty powerful. It's a really great card to start your plays and is one of the main cards you're going to be using in the deck. I found myself last night as I was playtesting even more online that I did run out of the Orcust monsters, and now I might bump these guys up a bit because last night I ran out of resources and I lost the game because of that. I'm using 2 copies of Skeleton. Skeleton's pretty powerful and it's one of my favorite Orcust monsters because it's like a monster reborn during my turn and my opponent's turn, which I can recycle, and to me that helps me control the board even more later on in the game. I'm also using double copies of Orcust Nightmare. Orcust Nightmare is one of the new cards from Savage Strike, and it gives you a lot of playability, and I think that if you are challenging an Orcust deck, like in a mirror match, or if you're using a different deck, you can always ask this card, because then that stops your opponent from continuing to play, and this really gets the engine going. Basically, this is one of the cards that you want to summon out in turn 1. So there's just a little tip over there. I'm also using 2 copies of War Legacy Warlock 1. This guy is just an extender you need, and it's easy summon with Summon Sorcerer. And this guy brings back and really gets the whole combo together. So you do need to use 2 copies because you don't want to draw into your 1 copy and then you're going to need it in the graveyard basically. So you need 2 copies. I'm also using the Phantom Knight engine. So for that engine, I'm using 1 cloak and double boots. It's a very small engine I'm using along with the trap cards, but this really helps a lot later on in the game. And at the start of the game actually, these are some of the cards you need to build that board, to get that board up there, and these guys are one of the best. So I'd say use this version of it. If you want, you can bump this guy up to 2, but for now this is pretty good. I'm also using 1 copy of Nightmare Iblis. In this deck, you want to get into Nightmare Mermaid as fast as you can, but like I said, it's a budget version. When I got Iblis, I got it for like $15, let's say, within trades. So you can always trade for this card, but if you can't afford to use the Iblis, there's also versions like 4-month Skipper that came out in the Salamangreat structure deck, and you'd be pretty good if you pick this up because they're just basically Iblis for you because they're 1 card Nightmare Mermaids. So this guy is pretty budget for you. Also, I'm using 1 copy of Armageddon Knight and 1 copy of Dark Grepher. These guys are still good in the deck even though they're hit to 1. That's why they were hit to 1, because they're good. As you can hear, this airplane flying. That happens time to time. Just ignore it. We're all good. And also, you should pick up the Salamangreat structure deck because you do get Ash Blossoms, and that's where I got mine. I'm using common Ash Blossoms because they do the same as Secret, Supers, and Ultra. Don't get it mistaken, this is a budget deck, and Ash Blossoms, I got the structure decks, I got Ash Blossoms, I got 4-month Skipper, and I got cards to counter the Salamangreat structure, the actual deck, so it helps to pick up that I picked up that deck. I'm using 1 copy of Ghost Ogre. I might take this guy out for an Effect Vader. Effect Vader has been seen a lot of play, and the price has been really up there. But for now, I'm just using 1 copy because this is what I used this past weekend. I'm just showing you guys what I'm using this past weekend. I might change it up and I'll bring to you guys an update. So remember to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. And thank you to everyone that's been subscribing. We've been growing in subscription. For the spell cards, we have to use the rank up magic card. Because of this card and Azathoth, you probably lose some friends. They won't want to play against you. But that's how Yu-Gi-Oh goes. You use one reinforcement of the army to search out the card you need. This can work for Phantom Knights, Armageddon Knights, and also Dark Grepher. Then use Monster Reborn, one of the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! It just reborns a monster. So why not? You gotta use it. I'm also using one of the field spell card. This card is very powerful and a lot of people mistaking it because they like to destroy it. And you just get to discard to get it back to hand, which the discard at most times helps you out more than anything else. You're using one Foolish Burial to extend your plays and double copies of Allure of Darkness. This is the draw power in the deck. Before in Volume 1, I had a larger draw power, but now I'm trying to just minimize it just to get everything good. And at most times, I get the cards I need first turn. So this is just an insurance, you can say. I'm also using one of the Orcust Return. This is really good because it's searchable and you can always set it for later on. But because this is a high and heavy combo reliant deck, you need to use triple copies of Call by the Grave because people will be ashing you all over the place and you got to be ready. So it's recommended to use triple copies because sometimes you do need it at the start of the game. I'm also using triple copies of Twin Twister because sometimes you will go second. They're going to be building a great board against you, and by using Twin Twister you send monsters to the graveyard which don't affect you as much because your monster's effects works in the graveyard. So Twin Twister is amazing in the deck. For the trap cards, I'm using one of the Shade, Phantom Knight Shade, and two of the Sword. These guys are great, but you gotta remember you cannot attack. If you activate this on your opponent's monster, you cannot attack that monster. So you gotta find other ways to get rid of it, which your deck does give you that ability. So these guys work great in here, and this guy is one of the most important cards in your deck to go into the Azathoth play. So you do need to play one copy of this card. Two cards that I used this weekend, which I believe I'll be taking them out. They did not work the way I wanted to, but what can I say? I had to try something different. I was using one copy of Imperial Order and one Evenly Match. Yes, the title says budget deck profile, and Evenly Match was given to me by a friend, which makes it budget. If they give you cards, hey, it's free. So I use it, but I'll probably take this out into my side deck for later on. And Imperial Order, I don't know how I feel about it. It's very powerful. It let me win one game, but then after that, it wasn't really needed. So I might take this guy out. I don't know what I'm going to replace it with yet, but probably I will take it out. Now, let's go into the extra deck. The extra deck is the main core of your deck. Basically, you depend heavily on the extra deck. So if anyone stops you from going to extra deck, it hurts you a lot. So you got to get ready for those. That's why we use Twin Twisters. So for the extra deck, we're using for the Nightmare package, one Mermaid, one Cerberus, one Phoenix. These guys are your starters. You need these guys. You need Cerberus and the Phoenix, even though they're not dark monsters. You use them basically for the name, and you can also use them for their effects later on in the duel. But Mermaid is the VIP of the deck, so you're gonna make sure that your Mermaid effect goes through. So you use those guys. You're also using one of the Galatea, which is very powerful and one of the monsters you're gonna be seeing almost every duel. You go into this guy so easy that you get to search the field spell card, the orchestrated return. All of those cards are searchable because of this card. I'm using one Wee Witch Apprentice because I found myself having to go into dark monsters sometimes and I don't have an Orcust monster on the field. So that's just a filler at the moment, and it does give you a bit of a power boost. I'm using also one of the Link 3 Orcust monster, and this effect is amazing when you can lock your opponent out of the link zone or the extra zone where this arrow is going to be pointing to, and you can just send the card to the graveyard. I'm also using Summon Sorcerer as being one of the most used cards in the combo to get to Azathoth because you need special summon, and it helps. You use one Trisbania for the back row heavy plays, one of the Link 4 Orcust monster. This guy is a powerful body and also can negate effects, so that helps. I'm using one Deco Talker for protection For my spell and trap cards sometimes, and sometimes you just need another big body to just get over your opponent's monsters. One of the Phantom Knight Link monster, this guy is one of the main combos to get Azathoth out as well. And one of the Bomber Dragon. Bomber Dragon helps you have control on the field, and that's what you want. You can control the field with your other orchestrated monsters, and that gives you a lot of advantage. Vol2 Dragon, this guy is very powerful and just gives you the advantage you need, and is very easy to take out in this deck. And the most hated cards right now are Time Thief Redoer and Azathoth. This guy stops your opponent from playing the game for that one turn. They get pretty mad. If you're playing online, people probably scoop. If you're just playing in real life, you probably win the game if you see this guy out. But you know, there's always players that are very smart and can counteract this card. So remember that you can only get this guy out during the main phase. Do not forget that, guys. And now into the side deck. The side deck has been changed because of the format change and everything that's been going on. So you have to side heavily for the Salamangreat Great. Probably that's going to be the deck you're going to be seeing all over. It's budget, it brings ashes, and a lot of people like budget. Even though they want to say that they get the high rarity stuff, Salamangreat Great is something that a lot of players been looking into. So you're going to use one Chimera and one Super Poly, because this just uses your opponent's monster if they're playing Salamangreat Great. So you can go into this guy and you're probably going to win that duel if you do that. And also I'm using one DD Crow because they depend heavily on the graveyard. The DD Crow might be switched out. Not too sure yet, but for now it's been working. I'm using Denko Cycle also for Sky Striker, Salamangreat Great, the Mirror Match. That helps out a lot. And one Prankatops. Prankatops is just a big body you can bring out first turn. And it's an easy out to the same Mirror Match concept. So it's always good to have that. I'm using Cherries because a lot of my monsters in my extra deck are generic monsters and that a lot of people use. So depending on your matchup, you can always Cherries the guy that you need. If they want to use Azathoth on you, just Cherries at the right time and there you go. You're all good, man. Then you're going to use one red reboot for the altar, guys. I would say you don't see much of that, but I still won't take this out because I never know. One is enough for me. And I'm using double copies of Ghost Match. Ghost Match is mainly for the rogue decks out there. It gives me an advantage on them. So, and now for something I've been enjoying playing, this side deck option really helps me control the board basically, and that's what I like. I'm using double copies of Shadow Fusion, one copy of Shadow Dragon, and one copy of Winda. This guy gives me control because my opponent cannot summon more. By the time I use this card, I have my board established, and that helps me out a lot. So if you have any ideas on how I can make the deck better without dangers, please let me know in the comment section. Remember to like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers right now. I'm at 49. So go ahead and give me that subscription. It helps out a lot. I'll try to get more content as I go by. As I'm trying to free up more time, I get better equipment, guys. Well, see you next time.